A very good evening. On behalf of Sannam S4, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the Season 2 of High School's Excellence Knowledge Platform. Today, we're joined by experts from the Education Desk of Trade and Investment Australia and two of the top-ranked Australian universities for a session on how world-class Australian universities can add value to the Indian school ecosystem, which encompasses opportunities for students, teachers, leadership, and education itself. The session aims to provide important information about post-COVID shifts in the Australian higher education sector, updates and emerging opportunities for Indian students to fulfill their aspirations of studying at world's top 50 universities and engagement models. It is my privilege to welcome our experts from Austrade with the University of Sydney and University of Queensland in this session, and the session will be moderated by Ms. Shikha Wij. Ms. Neha Grover. Ms. Grover joined Austrade in 2014 and is responsible for driving and strengthening education sector linkages and partnerships between India and Australia. She is instrumental in advising Australian education providers to develop a commercially viable model for engagement in India. She is an experienced professional with 13 years of experience in the field of international engagement, consultative selling, and stakeholder analysis, mapping business developments. Ms. Anupama Ghai. Ms. Ghai has worked in the education sector for the last 9 years out of her 20 plus years of work experience. She's worked with the British Council and Tata Consultancy Services, where she led on large-scale commercial as well as impact-driven education projects with the state government in India. She's led diverse teams in highly challenging environments and created a success story where she's worked in her professional career. As the Principal Advisor India for the University of Sydney, she's responsible for India operations and aspirations to be the preferred study destination for bright Indian students. University of Sydney is consistently ranked high and holds the 40th position in the World QS 2021 ranking and is also ranked number 4 in the World Graduate Employability. Mr. Sagar Bahadur. Mr. Bahadur is responsible for the overall strategic direction of the University of Queensland in India operation, which encompasses business expansion, brand communication, and stakeholder engagement. University of Queensland, also known as UQ, is the founding member of the Group of 8 universities, ranked 46th in the QS World Ranking and 2nd in the Australia 2020 academic ranking for world universities. UQ has won more national teaching awards than any other Australian university. Mr. Bahadur is committed with transforming education for the next generation and building innovative education models, has a rich, diverse experience in K-12, higher ed, and online ed space across multiple geographies, including India, US, UK, Australia, Southeast Asia, amongst the top. He's the proud recipient of the Philip Kotler Award 2020 in the education domain and has been awarded the Business World 40 Under 40 Education in September 2020. The session will be moderated by Ms. Shikha Wij. In her role as a counselor, she's got an opportunity to review a plethora of college applications and essays and has visited many college campuses as a part of her work, with admission for students ranging from top-ranking universities across the world. She's instrumental in advising students on all aspects of their application. She's a member of various committees like International ACAC and the recipient of the Counselor of the Year 2019 by IC3. Her background in clinical counseling helps her to understand the needs of a student as well as parents. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Ms. Shikha Wij.
Thank you so much, Ritika. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm sure we've been joined by people from various parts of the world. It is a privilege and an honor to moderate this panel. I'm especially excited because we have such a wonderful relationship with Australia as a school. Every year we end up sending 2 to 3 students to Australia and the reviews have been just fantastic. It's a pleasure to moderate 2 wonderful universities from Group of 8. Group of 8 is a large research public consortium in Australia, and UQ and U Sydney are very, very popular universities, remain extremely popular with our students. We've been proud that one of our students is going to U Sydney on a full scholarship this year in such trying times, where financial aid remains such a concern. To offer these scholarships, to open students, to have the policies that they have for international students is such a welcome change. I've had fantastic relationships with UQ. Just in the middle of the pandemic, I remember Sagar and his team going out of their way to help students form on Zoom. So that is Australia for you. That is what they're capable of doing, you know. So without further ado, I'm going to deep dive into this session. Anupama, I'm going to throw the first question to you. Would you like to tell me what makes Australia such a popular study destination? Will the current geopolitical situation build this momentum to keep Australia a top higher education destination?
Hi, thanks, Shikha, for asking this question, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to start this conversation. Um, I mean, just to share, Australia is one of the most preferred destination for education among Indian students. Currently, we attract the third largest number of international students in the English-speaking world after the US and the UK. But in some countries, Australia is the first choice of study destination among students. A lot of factors contribute to this popularity. One of this is Australia's unique educational experience and a learning style that encourages one to be innovative, creative, think independently. Australian education is known for excellence, innovation, and qualification recognition worldwide. Now, its extraordinary heritage of innovation means a student's potential for success is boundless. Graduates from Australian universities and schools are highly sought after due to the impressive international reputation of the Australian education system. They are highly successful in finding jobs, they hold prominent positions worldwide, and they're also readily accepted for postgraduate study at leading international universities. Another reason of this popularity, to my mind, is the generous post-study work rights policy of the Australian government. Depending on the program undertaken, students are eligible to undertake post-study work in Australia, and they can, use their newly gained knowledge to gain local work experience. The, Also, the country is known for its research. As if you've mentioned that the Geo8 is the group of research intensive universities, and for example, IVF, cervical cancer vaccination, penicillin, ultrasound, the black box flight recorder. These are some of the innovations which were all invented by graduates from Australian universities. Um, Another reason that comes to my mind is the very high standard of living, which is amongst the highest in the world. Three Australian cities, naming Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide, are amongst the 10 top most livable cities in the world. Again, Australia is a very diverse and multicultural society. 47% of the total population of Australia is born outside the country, so which makes it very welcoming, I think. Um, and Australia's economy is very strong and robust. Just to share with the audience here, Australia hasn't seen a recession in the last 30 years. It has a very stable and safe political environment. Even during the pandemic and travel restrictions, Australian visa services continue to function with ease. So as soon as the borders open, students with visa will be able to travel immediately to their study destinations. Unlike US and UK, Australia has managed the pandemic also very well. And this should give enough confidence to the students and parents in these tough times to choose Australia as a safe and quality study destination. I'll just add one more point here. These two countries, Australia and India, they share a very, very comfortable and natural relationship. And we have very strong bilateral partnerships. And recently held, virtual meeting between the two prime ministers. There were very positive comments from both the prime ministers, which really further boosts our confidence that Australia will continue to be a popular study destination for Indian students and soar new heights in the time to come.
Fantastic, Anupama. That was a very interesting point you made about the post-study visa, work visa options. And, that is what students are looking at in global destinations as a part of global mobility. So as a segue to that, Neha, I'm going to throw my next question to you. How is Australia placed to supplement international student outcomes and their future goals from a career perspective?
Thank you, Shikha, for the question, and thank you for having me here. I would like to begin by stating that the majority of international graduates do say that their studies in Australia were a real advantage for their career. So we believe, in Australia, studying is just not about gaining a qualification, but it's also about gaining the right skills, knowledge, contacts, experience to achieve success, from a career perspective. And Anupama had also briefly mentioned about this. So in Australia, the education is quite future focused. What sets our Australian universities apart is their focus on helping students develop personally and professionally. They're helping students to communicate more effectively, build productive networks, get a job, and help them advance their careers. If you talk about the internships or the industry work experience, that forms an important part of many Australian courses. Ensuring students are ready to work and they have up to date, practical skills and are future ready. In fact, every year, I'm sure Sagar and Anupama can talk more about that, but all Australian universities run programs and events to help connect students with potential employers. And if you look at the global recognition in most fields, all Australian qualification is recognized and it's accepted by employers in countries throughout the world.
That is fantastic, Neha. Really, it sounds like an amazing destination, and I completely agree with the fact that the universities go, all out to support their students with careers, with settling in Australia. Having traveled to Australia in 2019 to visit one of the Geo8 universities, I've seen it with my own eyes. Sagar, I'm going to talk here a little bit about the perception gap when it comes to Indian students, when they're considering Ivy League universities in the US or Russell Group options in the UK. What do you think is the general perception for Australia for their higher education?
Okay, so thanks, Shikhar, for posting the question. Thanks to Sannam for inviting on the panel, and to all the audience who are spending their evening with us. To answer that question, Shikhar, I think all of us can be on the same page. Firstly, that these days students, they do a decent amount of research themselves, followed by the excellent, support structure that all of you provide in the respective schools to show them the kind of institutions they can go to and how to reach, to those institutions. Uh, Having said that, I think the general education community in India can know more about Australia when it comes to innovations, the research, and the academic excellence that is happening at campus. And I think more importantly, how all of that transcends into the classroom, how it benefits the student is, I think, a gap that the community here can know more. Now, in India, traditionally, students, parents, even the schools would have an aspiration to go to an Ivy League, maybe to a Russell Group also, which is quite fairly known. I think it's important for, that's why it's important for them to know what a group of eight means. And as the name suggests, these are eight world-class universities, more than 100 years old. The kind of research excellence that is happening, has to be, communicated to the stakeholders. Just to talk about UQ, we are talking about global impact, like the first cancer vaccine, the cervical cancer coming out of UQ, the ultrasound, the MR, we use in hospital coming from a university, in Australia. And that's where, I think the difference will be made. We are doing our part of closing this gap. Like, in this panel itself, Sydney and UQ are talking about the group of eights with all of you. I think we do it with the students. There are sessions where, we show famous Australians like cricketers and Hollywood stars, and we ask them, who are these? And we'll slip in a photo of a Wi-Fi icon, and they're all quizzed, and we tell them, this came from Australia. Wi-Fi was invented in Australia, and suddenly a Google Maps coming from Australia. And that's where we see that, their minds open up towards Australia. Uh, I think when you talk about perception, it also can be through a fact that in the last decade or so, there were other non-group of eight Australian universities who have been very active in India, and at times, the market would have seen, some kind of maybe discounts or some kind of eligibilities where, I mean, of course, the country got a lot of students, but I hope, maybe somewhere the quality would have been a factor which gets carried away when you open the floodgates. And that's where I think the role of you people, the counselors, becomes more important to counsel the students and parents to show how a ranking matters, how quality matters, why research would help them in the long run. So yeah, I think collectively this gap can be narrowed. It's just a perception gap, I feel.
Those were some fantastic insights, Agar. I totally agree with you. At least in my school, we do discuss, moving beyond the rankings. What are the opportunities that are available? And, do a geo serve and move away from this heavy US centric phenomena that we've been, part of for all these years. So, looking at the opportunities that are available, Anupama, I'm going to ask you next. So, what are the opportunities that you feel aspiring students from India have at these top ranked institutions in Australia? Is there any way, any support given by the universities for deserving students to fulfill their dreams to graduate from these universities? And especially given the COVID-19 scenario, what options do India school leavers have right now?
Yeah, thanks, Shika. So as Sagar and Neha were mentioning about the quality of education in Australia, just to add, with 7 of the top 100 universities in the world, I can, confidently say that Australia is truly a high quality study destination, as I shared in my comments as well earlier. Speaking of University of Sydney that I represent, we are one of the world's top research universities. We are consistently ranked in the top 50 universities in the world and are known internationally as leaders in education, research, and student experience. We are also Australia's leading university for graduate employability, which we really take great pride in. And we are ranked first in Australia for the past 5 years and fourth in the world. Now, these rankings also reflect our dedication to preparing students to enter the workforce fully ready. Um, there are a lot of support for international students throughout their time at the university. And we offer a variety of scholarships for deserving international students at all levels. There are various general scholarships, faculty scholarships for deserving meritorious students. And, moreover, their options do not end with the enrollment at the university. Many faculties, schools, and disciplines, award prizes to their students based on the academic merit. Apart from scholarships, the university takes student support responsibility also very seriously. Helping students reach their academic and personal potential is really important to us. And we offer a range of services aimed at helping them to make the most of student life, including practical help, study advice, counseling, and or healthcare. University also, offers great options for school leavers in India. As a bright student from India, whatever course you choose to undertake with us, you will be assured of unbeatable academic excellence and support system. You can choose from the widest range of courses available in the country and join Australia's most employable graduates because, as I said, we are #1 in graduate employability. And despite the significant learning challenges associated with the outbreak of COVID, both domestic and international students at the University of Sydney rate their online learning experience higher than ever before. We do an yearly survey, and for semester 2 2020, our overall USS score across core survey items was 4.17, which was even up from 4.11 in semester 1 2020. Now, this also represents the highest semester level results since the current survey was introduced in 2015. These are, a testament to the fact that University of Sydney has ensured that quality of teaching and learning is not impacted adversely while the students study online during COVID-19. Also, the university activities, not just about academic, but students are looking at, this campus experience and the university experience. Um, University of Sydney, all the activities have also adapted to the online world. In fact, it's easier than ever to get involved in university life because you don't even have to leave your house. With students studying remotely, they can practically enjoy every aspect of the campus life. They can join different clubs, societies, and enjoy extracurricular programs that have transitioned online too. I would actually like to again reiterate that Australia is a very, very safe destination and has handled pandemic very well. And it is very well placed to welcome international students as soon as the borders open. The students can then travel without any fear and concerns for their health and safety, because the pandemic situation is in Australia is really, I mean, if you compare it with other countries, they have really managed it very, very well.
Thank you. Before moving on, I'm going to just digress a bit here. We are going to be taking in questions at the end. We have, kept a specified time for questions. In the meantime, you're welcome, as Ritika said, to please put your questions in the Q&A box, and I already see a couple of questions there. We will be getting back to you. Moving on, Anupama, you just mentioned, the safety in terms of COVID and how much, online learning is still happening. However, students are students, they're eager to come to the campus. So Neha, my next question to you is, where are we heading towards, and when do you think the Indian students will be able to arrive at the university campus?
Thank you, Shikha. That's the most difficult one to answer. But Indian students are an important part of the Australian community, and we look forward to welcoming them back to our universities and communities when conditions allow this year. We felt the absence of international students in Australia, and our government is fully focused on economic and sector recovery. Australian government is in discussions about continued planning for international students' arrival, and these include visa measures, health requirements, and efforts to return to face-to-face learning. While these travel restrictions to Australia are in place, there are actually some alternate ways for students to get engaged. We all know Australia has a long history of innovation in education, and this pandemic has actually pushed our universities to embrace digital technologies. And they've risen to this challenge and proven that they're well equipped to cater for an expansion in online learning. So while with online and app-based learning, assessment, and student support gaining acceptance, Indian students can actually gain Australian qualifications without traveling to Australia and have the same learning experience online. So at last, I just want to say borders will certainly open, our economy will be stronger, and we will be safe and healthy place for students to come.
Thank you, Neha. Really, I'm into that. We're all looking forward to travel, to study on campus, to students visiting, the buzz of the students at the
Yes.
campus. Moving on from there, Sagar, where do Indian schools currently stand for Australian universities in terms of their global strategies? What is the general vision? And I'm going to throw another question at you. We know that CBSE results are going to be out by July, and the semester begins in Australia by then. So, what's the plan for Australian universities? And maybe after Sagar answers this, Anupama can chip into that, because there is that general anxiety in students who are applying to Australia. The timelines have been really different for them, for the national board in particular. Over to you, Sagar.
Okay. Yeah. So Shika, I'll answer the second one first and then move on to the first one. So when you talk about this the delay in the board examinations and the anticipated delay in the results again, I think just like last year where we all were clueless of how this would have happened, this year also most of the universities. I mean, I can talk about UQ and I'm sure it'll be the same all across. So what happens is every student will have the option of a conditional start at the university. That just means that based on the predictive scores or the pre-board results, the universities would take into account the performance and allow the student to continue, as and when the July intake starts. Let's say that's the next one, giving an opportunity for the student to have a seamless, start and not to wait, have that kind of anxiety. And I think, like last time, we give them a comfortable amount of 90 days or so, 3 months, to produce the documents again. this doesn't interfere in their visa process, so that's easy for them to process the other side of it. And I think this would be the case this time also. And keeping this in mind, I'm sure universities are also looking at maybe delaying the start by a week or two, giving that added flexibility for students to sort out their things and then come on board. So I think it's been now two intakes, and I think the universities have understood the kind of flexibility and comfort the students would need, not to add to their anxieties that are already going on. So I think there is a safe spot for students to apply and to wait to conditionally start. And I think the support staff back in country is quite supportive of this. To your first question now, where universities and schools, what kind of relation can we look at? I think just taking clue from my first answer, we're talking about, different segments of university. When you talk about the group of eights, they thrive on research excellence. The whole motive is to find global issues, find a solution, and then transfer that knowledge back. And when these kind of universities would look at partnering either with an institution, with a company, government, or school, both sides would start thinking what is the intent and what is the kind of value that we can create. Now, I think it's a question. Now, again, I mean, a short answer is that I think for all universities, not just Australia, for every university now, Indian schools are most important. And I think it's for the schools, for you people to decide what would be the intent and what would be the value that you're looking at. What can the university, contribute towards the school stakeholders? Either you're looking at a transactional relationship, which traditionally has been there, that I mean, a university can come talk about the programs and the students, get in, or there can be a lot of value that in terms of knowledge transfer as well as knowledge co-creation that can happen on both sides. Now, when I talk about UQ, we've been very proud to work with schools as equal partners. I think we've had an excellent run in the last 18 months of not just transferring what we know, but also learning from this side of the kind of opinions, the kind of perceptions, and the kind of knowledge the principals, teachers, counselors, and students have. Uh, I think we in the last year, I'll just share my screen while I talk. In the last year itself, we have trained over 10,000 educators in India. We've done PD, a professional development for 500 school leaders. We work with 1,000 plus Indian students, school students, on global projects, and I think that's where we thought this partnership of equals should go towards. About the entrepreneurship drive that we are doing, so the India Future Founders, and I think I just want to focus on one of the programs which has taken the imagination of we've heard a lot about. It was the IB enrichment program, which allowed 20 schools in India to work with the university to prepare a parallel curriculum, and that parallel curriculum was run in tandem with the school teaching. Giving the students an opportunity to learn from our professors what they've been taught in the school. And I think that's what I feel would be a differentiator when schools look at these kind of partnerships, of whether they want it to be transactional or is there some kind of value that they can achieve. So yeah, it is an important space. A lot of companies have come in and they're thriving on this closeness between universities and schools. But I think the onus lies on the schools to decide, what the direction would be for this. So yeah.
I totally agree with that, Sagar, and it's been a pleasure. With Step by Step, I know that we've done fantastic work with UQ, whether it was the boot camp or the IB enrichment, and, the masterclass for biology. We yet to see the kind of phenomenal response that came to that from our students. It was
Thank you.
energizing, and students are constantly asking, when are we going to have a repeat of the masterclass? So definitely, you guys are taking it to the next level. I mean, you're doing some great work in India, so fantastic. And kudos to you on that and your team. I'm going to throw the last question to Neha before we move on to the Q&A. Just one thing, would you like to add, Anupama, about the fact that the CBSE results are coming up? I know Sagar spoke for most of you and he spoke about UQ, but I just wondered if you wanted to add anything there about the results being delayed for CBSE, which is a larger cohort for India.
Just to, to add to what Sagar has said already, I agree that universities are going to take this, view, and they would come up with their a plan B. But just to, but what is all, I can all talk about what is already available. There are alternative routes to Indian students, to take admissions with their SAT or ACT or AP scores. And so they could, if without even kind of getting the final results from CBSE, if they can just give a proof of completion of class 12 from the school, and their SAT scores or ACT scores or AP scores, with the eligibility criteria, for because different courses would have different thresholds of the score. They have that alternative also available, and they would be able to apply for scholarships as well along with that. So this is another option available to students.
Fantastic. It's wonderful to see how you guys are adapting, and moving ahead, moving the deadlines to accommodate students' needs. I mean, that is the goal that we're all working for. Fantastic work there. Moving on to the last question to Neha. Neha, request you to throw some light onto how some Australian universities are rising above, just like what Sagar and Anupama shared, to the call of duty and delivering knowledgeable leadership to the world.
Thank you, Shikha. Honestly, I'll be biased here because I know all Australian universities have been doing real great work and running number of initiatives to support the students and are delivering knowledge leadership to the world. Be it master classes, engaging students and educators with virtual lectures, running boot camps, which Sagar spoke about, or doing professional development courses for educators. There has been a lot, that has been happening. In fact, Austrade, has been working very closely with number of Australian universities and has launched number of initiatives. I'll speak about few of them. One of them is schools video competition, which we've been running for 7 years, where we reach out to future students to promote Australian education capabilities. This year, we ran the competition engaging school students in South Asia's 20 large cities, and the competition attracted huge traffic with an impressive 8 million impressions and 70,000 paid visits to our competition website. In fact, we recently announced the winners, so it was a great success. The other one is the Study with Australia pilot. Last year, Austrade's Study with Australia pilot online learning campaign got over, I think, 830,000 enrollments from over 224 markets, wherein we were offering free short courses from 20 Australian universities and English language training providers. In fact, building on that success we had, we are signing a new agreement between Austrade and Future Learn that's going to enable any interested Australian education and training provider to deliver online courses and qualifications to students around the world at no cost entry and on a free revenue share basis. We've been producing career mentoring videos, again in collaboration with universities. Students get to experience Australian content through a virtual lecture. Recently, 6 Australian universities mentored over 1,000 plus students from India. Again, our social media campaign generated around 3.10 million impressions, and it was a great success. We've recently launched a dedicated landing hub for international education for Indian students on Study in Australia website. So, students, counselor, parents, everybody can find information about courses and about studying and living in Australia. And it will actually enable students to directly inquire with Australian universities using our new course search function. This year, we'll also be running a virtual education showcase. This is the first one ever, collaborating with Australian universities, and we'll do a comeback with a masterclass series to again, share Australia's edtech online capabilities and connect students with Australian universities. So there has been a lot happening, and Australian universities have been doing quite a lot of interesting work and engaging with the government a number of initiatives.
That is brilliant. I mean, it's exciting and energizing just to hear about it. So much learning
Yeah.
happening, and we've really risen up to the challenge of working online, partnering, collaborating as universities, Austrade being at the center of it. It's fantastic, some of the work that you guys are doing. I'm going to move ahead to the questions and then quickly conclude in the end. First question is from Subha Rao. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What are the career opportunities for engineering students? I mean, any of you could please jump in here. Sagar, Anupama, why don't we hear from both of you?
Anupama, you can start and I can follow in.
Yeah, so there, as I said earlier as well, there are hordes of opportunities for all kind of, I won't be able to answer very, very specific this thing, but as I said, because of the quality of education at the universities in Australia, there are hordes of opportunities available for graduates from all walks, all streams in all lines. So engineering students would definitely have an edge over the others, because the top differentiator is here, I would say, is the kind of practical experience that the students get at all the universities, because they would have hordes of opportunities to have connect with the industries. They work on internships, and they work on not just simulated projects, but actually the live projects with various organizations. In fact, University of Sydney has the largest industry connect program, where students get in ample opportunities to use their knowledge and apply it in the practical situations, working on live projects with industry. So I would say, and I also mentioned about the Australian economy. It is very, very strong economy, and I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities for Indians graduates from these universities to get work opportunities. And I'm sure Sagar would add more to what I've said.
Yeah. So I think one point is that the engineering cohort from India is a very sizable cohort for us. So it's a massive cohort that we take in. I think over the last few intakes, what we have seen is that there is a rise of these niche programs. The futuristic programs, like we have seen an immense growth in data science, cybersecurity, and food science and these kind of programs. So I think that's one area that we are seeing, that of course the country, I mean, Australia is producing jobs, in these niche areas, technology and IT related. But at the same time, the growth is reciprocal from this side in terms of, the demand. So students are going, they're well taken care of, by the universities in the respective career outcomes that, they need. I think the other way to step back and look at it would also be, we generally, when we talk to students, we give them this example that in India, if a company has to recruit, you're talking about an MNC to recruit, they will go to the premier institutions, which would be, let's say, the IIMs or the IITs. And if you can equate these to the group of eights in the respective states, that's what, a company in Australia will first go to the group of eights in their respective states. That's where the talent pool will be. So it's a little more comforting when students try to equate what a group of eight would mean in the Indian context, to give them the thing that yes, companies would first come for the best talent pool. When you talk about the second thing we talk about when we talk about economy is, you see multiple factors, like Australia generally has grown at a 1.8% GDP, which is good for a developed country to grow at that. And then you have different states, separately growing. So Queensland as a state grows at 3.5%, which is double the national average. Now, the GDP growth means there's business growing. There are more companies coming in. There are more opportunities, and then they will have to go to the best institution, to take that talent out, when there's demand. And that's what we try to make, students and schools understand, that we'll have to look at a 360 view of how the market is, how the economy is, where the pool goes first. So yeah, I mean, immense opportunities. Of course, COVID has had challenges all across, but Australia still is economically at least quite strong that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sagar and Anupama. Moving on to the next question. Mr. Tushar has asked, as a principal in a CBSE school in India, how will it be beneficial for our students? I think he's talking about, application to Australia. What are the opportunities Australia has to offer? Sagar, do you want to quickly recap, or maybe Anupama, what some of the things that we've already discussed and how that could be beneficial for students to apply or encouraged to apply to Australia?
Sagar, you can go first and I can follow. Yeah.
So I think, see, again, two angles to look at it. For students, immense opportunity to look at their career opportunities, courses, whatever programs they're looking at, the kind of scholarships that generally universities have for meritorious students. Uh, if the question is towards what students, what beneficial, I mean, you're talking about entering a world top 50 university, having one of the best career outcomes that you can think of. But if you're looking at from a holistic schools point of view, I think a lot of students have benefited in Indian schools even without going to UQ. I mean, the kind of boot camps, the kind of activities that have happened. I mean, these 4 month long engagement activities like the IB enrichment. I think it doesn't take a student to go to Australia to experience learning or to get that kind of benefit. So on a holistic view, I think a lot of Australian universities are now extending that kind of approach, where right from leadership to teachers to counselors to students can be catered to in their respective cities. And of course, with this digital experience, everything is now quite possible. So and just to be mindful, all this happened even without when travel was there. So we have done these competition boot camps in person, in respective cities. People have traveled and they've worked with schools. So I think there are both ways to look at it. Students, of course, get a entry into the world class universities, but schools can also benefit a lot with these kind of developmental projects with universities.
Anupama, you want to take a
Yeah,
crack?
just I think Sagar has summed it up very, very nicely, so yeah, so I completely agree with him, that the kind of experience, the kind of opportunities, there are immense opportunities for students in Australia. We've been talking about the quality of education. We've been talking about the kind of research and innovation that happens in Australia. I think we and when Sagar was talking about the perception of Australian universities in India, I think we are now doing a great job in kind of creating and breaking those myths around the quality of education in Australia. And uh, uh, and it has really it has started showing results. People have started acknowledging the kind of and kind of the education quality in Australia, plus the opportunities that are there for students in terms of their own, even before going to the universities, the kind of master classes. We've done a lot of master classes and boot camps with Austrade and with certain schools at individual levels. We ran a competition which was an India Innovation Challenge competition, where there were more than 50 Indian schools participated. So and so these are a lot of programs and the offerings that universities are kind of willing to extend their support and share their knowledge and expertise with leaderships. We are looking at launching of a lot of CPD programs for CBSE schools and the others, working with teachers through Australia, through other partners. And I'm sure all the audience here just wait for a few more days for us to share the details with you all. So yes, completely agree with Sagar. It is that it's highly. I mean, looking at the top, as I said, the top 7 of the Australian universities amongst the top 100 talks a lot about the quality.
So looks like there are opportunities galore, Mr. Tushar, where Australia is concerned, whether it's boot camps, online, hybrid. We have it all. The students can take their pick, learn from whatever opportunities are available. There is career support, alumni support, all that's happening there. Um, a question which has been echoed moving on. And I know, Neha, we've already answered that. So I'm just going to ask you to reiterate what you've said in the, previously. But there is that anxiety in counselors and people present about when are the borders going to be opening up. I know it's a very, very fluid situation. None of us really having a prophecy ball as to, what are the COVID statistics going to look like 15 days down the line, let alone 2 months. But I would still let you reiterate what you've already said previously.
Yes, we completely understand how our international students feel, and honestly, we all are working hard to get them back to, the campuses and back to our communities. The government is in discussions with state government and universities to get our students back, and I had mentioned that earlier. We have been considering pilot projects as well for students to return to Australian universities. There's scale pilots that have been led by state and territory governments in partnership with education institutions. So, I mean, honestly, don't have an answer, but yes, we're working hard, and hopefully the situation will be right this year, and we'll be able to get back, students back to the campuses. But all the universities are open. Everything is moved online, so they have an opportunity to start their studies here while borders open and they're able to get back.
Thank you for that, Neha. That's very reassuring. I'm sure everybody's doing their best in their capacities to ensure safety of students. That's the primary concern. Rest, everything is secondary. Um, I'm going to throw a question open to the universities as a counselor, So we know that we see a lot of business, engineering centric questions, and those are the questions that have come in also from the audience. But what kind of majors which are interesting and new? Sagar did mention data science at some point, and I know that's a very popular course. What are some of the courses that are extremely popular in Australia, especially from Indian students applying there? I've also seen that Australia is very, very known for their cyber security programs. You have those miners, and that's very interesting. I happened to meet a couple from Canberra, a very young couple who were both working with the government on cybersecurity. And I was like amazed. These are the opportunities that are available. But what are you currently seeing in terms of, what are some of the key majors apart from engineering, which students are interested in?
Um, so basically, I mean, yeah, so you said that right, so cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data science, and especially at the University of Sydney, we are seeing a lot of the students interested in sustainable designs, so for example, or sustainable cities in the design and architecture side of it. Food security, another. I mean, some of these areas are where students. I think this pandemic has really taught us the importance of kind of life beyond just the career. So they are looking at a holistic how they can give back to the society and the world. So and with the University of your Sydney ranking number 2 in the world on impact rankings, I think so. These are some of the areas that are really, really kind of popular. We are seeing a lot of Indian, especially Indian students interested in sustainable cities and food security, artificial intelligence, data science. These are some of the very popular courses. Yes.
Okay. Sagar, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, from a university point of view, again, two segments. One are our core programs where, of course, the volumes will come in. So you're talking about business management, engineering, but then it's always good to see, the other fields that are developing. So again, like mentioned, food technology is one of the areas we're seeing. Pharmaceutical industry practice, jumped, and because of the current situation, maybe. So that's something that is done well. We last year launched a dedicated program for cybersecurity, not as a majors, but a complete dedicated program that is doing quite well for us. Then I think all we have veterinary sciences, doing well for us. So I mean that's good. One of the programs that we saw was peace conflict studies, and we ourselves get amazed at the kind of queries these students are really interested at this kind of an age, and I think that's where the whole shift is happening. Slowly and slowly we have critical thinking and more of humanities, liberal arts also, trying to look for those kind of programs, which is quite a refreshing change, even for universities.
Uh, That is so amazing to hear as a counselor. There used to be a point when everybody walking into my office just wanted to do either business or engineering, and I would crave for students to, go for varied majors. I personally have a student in one of the group of 8 universities who's pursuing psychology. Like Sagar said, we had a student who's very interested in vet sciences.
Yeah.
That is a key program in some of the Australian universities, and so passionate. Australians are, as a people, as a country, very very passionate about their animals. So
Yeah.
it's heartening to see students going for these refreshing courses. And we have a beautiful comment, it's from Sapna in the chat box, who say, I can vouch for, and this is kudos to your team, Austrade, UQ, Sydney. I can vouch for the quality of programs that were offered by Australian universities to school students during the past few months. Our students love the events. A big shout out to all of you. So that's like, yay, something to celebrate about. And I know we've partnered with you guys as a school, and that is the same thoughts that we echo. I'm going to quickly, before I summarize and close, ask the audience if they have any other question that we may have missed out on or not touched upon, before I raise another concern that's very, very relevant to Indian parents. Parents are a very intrinsic part of decision making in India, about the destination. Having been to Australia, I can say for certainty that there is absolute safety. I felt completely secure while I was traveling alone at night at 1 a.m. or on campus or off campus. But what are your views on this? This safety perception that was there, I think I won't even say it's there anymore, was there, say, a few years ago about Australia as a study destination. And we have another question also coming up in the chat box, so I'm going to hand it over to either Sagar or Anupama.
Saga, you want to go first?
Sure, and I think Neha can also contribute to this one. I think from in terms of safety, I think Australia people would know is one of the most secure locations. The kind of lifestyle that people have, I mean, for me also was quite different when I visited. Professionally, personally, I think it is one of the most diverse, countries that you can see when you look at the demographics there. uh, it is one of the highest per capita international student population. If you look at from the total population, I think they've embedded well in the society. We have not seen, at least uh, at least in my short tenure, nothing that we feel that we would advise the students before they leave or when they would have started in normal times. So yeah, that's one of the USPs we generally use. Anupama started her answer, with that thing that's something we really feel proud about. How Australia manages, the safety and the kind of environment it provides to the students. So yeah.
And just to add, I also visited Sydney that was my first visit to Australia. I visited Sydney in February, just before the pandemic. And I really felt, I mean, it was amazing. I loved the beaches, especially. So, yeah, so it is. And as I think I also mentioned that 47% of Australians are born outside the country. So it makes Australia a very diverse and multicultural society. You would find a lot of people from different countries. India has a big diaspora in India, in Australia, and especially in the big cities of Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. And so you will find that it is a very safe, very kind of a safe environment, especially and also with a large population of students also from India. I think you would not find yourself alone. There are lots to do. There are, I think, every city has their own, societies and cultural societies, and they celebrate all kind of festivals. I think, and cricket is very big. So Indian students especially can connect using the cricket as a common, binding or common thread that binds people together. So yes, it's a very safe country. It's very, I think, lot of things to do, a lot of ways to connect and bond with people from different countries who live there.
Thank you so much. Neha, do you want to quickly add anything to that? We have another question.
Yeah, I think Sagar and Anupama, they've covered it completely. It's a very safe and welcoming place to live and study. Australia is consistently ranked amongst the safest countries in the world. But, any country that you go to, be it India, you have to look after yourself and be aware of the risks that exist. Most of the universities, in fact all of the universities have support services available for their students, and they were very much evident during the pandemic. How the universities have stepped forward and supported the international students, so it's completely safe to study and live in Australia.
Thank you so much, Neha. The last question is by Ms. Komal Singh, which says, how can students get student loans? I want to interpret that slightly differently and say maybe that what are the scholarship opportunities or financial aid that the universities offer there? So I'll let the university reps take over quickly about, what are they offering?
So as I said, we have various scholarships available for students. We in fact have a India specific scholarships which we call Sydney Scholar India scholarships, where we give out 100% scholarships as well. Plus there are different amounts given. Then there are a lot of international scholarships available to Indian students as well as a cohort of international students. There are different faculty specific scholarships, and I won't be able to comment on the loans, but yes, I think student loans are also easily available. Won't be able to give specifics because that's not in my domain. But yes, the university gives out a lot of support in terms of scholarships, awards. Even after for to the current students, they can kind of go apply for funds if they are going through hardships. There are hardship funds available, bursaries are given out to students, and various other kind of support systems, financial and other kind of supports available to international students.
Sagar, quickly, do you want to speak from UQ's perspective?
I think yeah, it's I think same across universities. We're talking about central scholarships coming from the university for diversity markets, including India. So they can range from different disciplines to different ranges, like Anupama mentioned. I think the only thing to keep in mind is that they're all merit-based scholarship. It's not like it's mostly the group of eights may not give a bursary. You have to demonstrate that you're there, you deserve it, within extreme competition from other markets too. But then again, we have seen increasing number of students being supported through these scholarships, coming to us. Loans, of course, we have not seen any major flaw in the process so far that has been followed by the students or the agents themselves. So I think that's equally taken care of. I think the other route, which is interesting and is the trend, what we are seeing is with these articulation models that are being developed, a lot of students, who are financially, looking at, some kind of relaxations, can get into these kind of institutions in India, which can ultimately, after 2 years or 2.5 years, give them the opportunity to articulate into Australian universities, thus giving them the same degree that they would get, saving them that kind of an initial cost. We have particularly seen an increase in that flow also. I mean, it's of course the intakes that have been coming forward, and we've been interacting and telling them the benefits. But I think that in the near future will be a good channel, I think, for students to consider if they have the aspiration, but maybe finding it a little difficult to move into from the first year.
Ms. Pratibha Jain has a follow-up question here, which is going to be followed by a quick last question. Ms. Komal, I think the ease of getting scholarship has been covered. Ms. Jain is asking, can scholarships be won later based on 1 year performance, or are they at the entry point only?
And I can take that. Actually, I had mentioned that in my earlier comments as well, that your options to get a scholarship don't end with your enrollment at the university. So if somebody has failed to secure a scholarship at the start of the course, they can and if they have done well in their semester one or year one, many faculties, schools, and disciplines award prizes to their students, and again based on academic merit. So there are a lot of opportunities opportunities available to win scholarships and awards even after you have started your, commenced your studies. So yes, the simple answer is yes, there are a lot of opportunities even after you have enrolled.
Thank you so much, Anupama. We have, in the interest of time, one last question, which I'm going to ask Sagar. Maybe you can help us with this. Ms. Singh is asking, what are the essays or SOPs, that are needed there? So, what is the importance of that in an Australian application?
So, it will purely depend on the kind of program, that you're looking into. For example, in architecture, you have a different set of requirements that you have to submit. But for us, the kind of competition that we see, I mean, we're talking about applications being filled right now for 2022 February and all. So, the stronger the application becomes, it is, good for us to, filter those and put them through. Certain programs that we know of, the basic programs that you're talking about, business or management, would easily get through with the eligibilities that are, already prescribed. With the group of 8, you're still talking about high eligibility criteria. I think that itself becomes a good filter. Most of the students, I think more than 90-95% students have to be filtered through the structures in India that we have, and even the offices back there. So I think we are quite confident of the kind of filtering that happens. But yes, in certain programs, we know the kind of projects or submissions, the essays, that becomes relevant for students to submit.
Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful panel. Neha, thank you so much for answering those questions concerning student anxieties. Anupama and Sagar, what fantastic, representatives and of the universities of Group of Faith. Thank you. It has been a pleasure, and I can safely say, as a counselor working with a school, sending students to Australia regularly, that it is a safe, happy place. Their programs are stellar. I mean, you have to really be on campus to see the energy, and it's fantastic to see how kids are blossoming, whether in terms of career or anything. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Ritika and Sannam for giving me this opportunity to moderate this wonderful session. Over to you, Ritika.
Thank you so much, Shikha. And I'm just going to continue and say it's been insightful. I think I've learned a lot more about the Australian education system, even though I'm joined here by a panel of colleagues who I work closely with. But it's been amazing to hear questions and look at things from a very different perspective. Thank you so much, Neha, for taking the time. We know it's been, it's a very busy time for all of you, but it's been insightful to understand what the government is doing for students, universities, and various stakeholders. Similarly, Anupama and Sagar, it's been wonderful to hear not only what your universities are doing, but what your teams are doing on ground to support the fraternity. And lastly, but not least, Shikha, this session wouldn't be what it is without you moderating it with your insights. And I'm going to thank all of you on behalf of Sannam S4, and stay safe and just stay tuned for the next session on the Sannam S4 Schools Excellence Network. Thank you and goodbye.